Fair Market Animals 2019 video number 5. At this point you should have a worksheet that looks like this. Information added, calculations created, formulas. So what we want to do now is, first of all, make sure that you have it saved, and then come down here and make sure your worksheet has a name. We want to call this worksheet Market Lambs 2019. So you can either double click, type a new name, or you can point to it and right click and rename it. You could do it that way, Market Lambs 2019. And then we're going to be making some changes to it, and these changes possibly could kind of introduce some errors, make some mistakes, make it difficult to get back to where we would like to be, to our original worksheet. So let's make a copy of it, and the way we do that is to right click, move or copy, and then click create a copy, and make sure you're selected on Market Lambs 2019. Click OK, and then you'll see a copy with a 2 after it. And then if you want, you could rename that. And I'm going to call mine Backup. That's my backup. And that was backup from the end of video 4. And I'll press enter on that. And then I want to go back to my original, and I'm going to lift it and move it over so that it's the first one. So if necessary, rewind and get that taken care of. This was a copy that I had made previously at the very beginning. And then so this was our percent practice from video 4. But you should have at least your Market Lambs 2019 and then Market Lambs 2019 backup from video 4. So we could always get back to some original version. So this is Fair Market Animals 2019 video 5 is what we're going to be doing right now. Let's make some changes. First of all, let's go ahead and select all of this in row number 5 and put it all in the center. Come up to the alignment tool or the alignment group, click center. Well, while we're there, let's also go ahead and make our headings in a bold format. And then we can come down and select all of our commission rate. Let's go ahead and put that in the center. Now I'm just making these adjustments based on personal preference. You can certainly adjust these things if you would like. Now I see right here I am missing an entry number. Got to be real careful. Careful with these things. I think I pressed undo too many times, and hopefully I didn't do anything here to the rest of my worksheet. I think it still looks like it did at the end of video 4. Let me know if you see something different. So we finished up here. We've got that in the center. We've got some bold. And now that I made those changes, I want to go ahead and make sure I save. And once again, you want to save this as Fair Market Animals 2019 video 5. So I like making multiple versions of these workbooks as we're going through. So if you just really make some mistakes, you can always go back to a clean version of that which you're working on. So next up, we're going to analyze some of this information a little bit. And so we're going to have to do some new calculations. And so first of all, let's go ahead and go down to the bottom and practice some of the different formulas that we can use, some of the different functions that are available in Excel to analyze information. And so I think what we'll do here is we'll come on over to row 35 and let's insert these row headings here. We'll calculate some totals. We'll calculate an average, a median average, a maximum value, and a minimum value. So pause the video and go ahead and get those entered. Now after you have these, you notice that median average here is using up a little bit of space here, encroaching on column B, so we can just simply drag this over a little bit. Now we could do that double click, but if we do that double click, then it's going to adjust for this information that's in cells A1 through A3, and we don't want to do that. So this is just another way to do it. You can just click on it and just adjust it by dragging it to the left to make it smaller, or to the right to make it larger. Well, let's start with the totals. Now we're not going to calculate a total for everything because some of these totals just really wouldn't be interesting. We don't want to add up, for example, the show numbers. That wouldn't tell us much. The weights, total weights, at this point we're not going to add that up. The price per pound, adding those up would not be interesting. Now the total sales price for all the animals might be an interesting figure to see what was the total amount that was generated for market lambs. So let's do that one. So I'm going to click here in D35, equal sign. And then we learned in previous class lessons that we could add all these up by typing that equal sign and clicking, and then start adding up all of these values. But that will take a long time, clearly, so we want to use one of the built-in Excel functions to make things a little faster. So what is the answer to an addition problem? Starts with the letter S. Yes, sum. So you can just type sum, and then you'll see some shortcuts show up here to finish it, some completion boxes. And so we can double click sum, and it'll automatically put that parenthesis in for us. And then it's asking us to select. So we can go into the point mode and select all the values that we would like to add. I'm going to go ahead, put that selection around that range of cells. Looks like some marching ants going around. And then we can finish that off with the parenthesis, which is the right paren located above the 0. Equals sum, and then it shows this range, D6 through D32, and we can either press enter or click the check mark enter selection. So the total amount of sales during this year's fair for sheep was $42,458. So that's kind of fun to know. Let's see. Adding up the 6%, no, that was a commission rate. We don't want to add that up. We could add up all the commission amounts here. And I'm noticing right now that this column needs to be a little bit wider, going back to when I made that spelling error correction. And so I'm going to double click, give myself a little more room there. Now that looks a little better. So let's add up all the money that Rotary charged for selling those animals. So once again, equal sign, sum. You could put the parenthesis in yourself, located above the number 9, or double click the sum function. And then select all of those values. Let's find out how much Rotary charged to sell sheep. So they generated $2,547.48 in sales fees or commission fees. And then what was the total amount that students received? Equal sign, sum. $39,910.52. So let me know if your numbers are different than mine, and we'll make some corrections and get that taken care of before we move on. I might have made a mistake. As I mentioned earlier, I pressed undo a little too many times. I'm not sure if I might have done something that caused my numbers to be different than yours. But in any case, check them out. And then we'll move on to calculating some averages. Let's calculate the average amount for sales prices here. Now notice I'm having to scroll back and forth to make sure I'm in the particular column that I want to be in. So what we can do to make this just a little bit friendlier to work with, so we don't have to keep doing that so much, is we could freeze, keep this here while we scroll through the rest of the worksheet. So click in A6 right below that which we want to freeze. We want to freeze this row up above here. So click in A6, and then we're currently here at Home, in the Home tab. Let's go over to the View tab because we want to change the way we're viewing this worksheet. So under View, we're going to look under the Window group and look for Freeze Panes. So I'm going to click that drop box and look at this. Freeze Panes, keep rows and columns visible while the rest of the worksheet scrolls. So I'm going to select that one. And then notice when I scroll, it stays. So that way I can work on a separate part of the worksheet and still see my column headings. That's a very useful tool. To undo that, you just come back to Freeze Panes and click Unfreeze Panes. And then we're back to the way we were. So once again, select below the column, Freeze Panes, and then select Freeze Panes. So now, when I calculate this average, I know that I'm calculating the average of the sales price. How do we calculate the average? Well, we're going to calculate something here called the mean average, which will add up all of these values, get a sum, and then divide it by the number of values that are in this grouping. There's a shortcut for doing that, and that's equal sign, average, A-V-E-R, and there it is showing up there, equals average. So I could just go ahead and double click that, save some typing, and then just like we did with that sum function, go ahead and select all of the values we want to include in calculating this mean average. So this is telling us that the average price, sales price, was $1,573. Well, let's go ahead and calculate the average commission amount. Commission amount averaged $94.35, so it's kind of a central value. Some people paid more than that, some people paid less, but it's a way to calculate generally about how much everybody paid, the average. And then let's see what the average net amount received by the exhibitors or the students was here. Finish it off with that parenthesis. And we see that the average exhibitor received $1,478.17. Now, we could calculate the average price per pound. That might be interesting. Let's go ahead and do that. $12. Average price per pound. Some paid more, some received more, some less. So that's what we would call the mean average. Should have learned that in a math class at some point. We add up all the values and then divide by the number of values. Well, let's take a look at something called the median average, the middle value. So what the middle value will tell us is that half the values are above the median and half are below. It's the exact middle. So we can do that. Now normally with a group of data you'd have to do a sort and put all your values highest to lowest and then look at it and do some counting and find the middle one. But with Excel we do have a function that we can use, MED. There it is. Median, double click, select all the values you want to use within that calculation. We'll find out what the middle value is. Just another way to calculate an average is a median average. range C6 through C32. $11, a little different. We'll talk about why that's different. Let's do the same thing for sales price, commission amount, and net amount. Go ahead and calculate the median average for those three. Now hopefully you ended up with some numbers like this. You may need to go in and increase your decimal places so that you get the 16 cents. It may have rounded yours down. This one may have rounded it up. So go ahead and increase that so you get the exact amounts that I have here. Let me know if there's any differences. And then note that these averages are a little bit different. And so the reason why they are different is because this mean average here is influenced quite a bit by the larger values. You know, some people got $9 a pound, some got $17 a pound. And so it would tend to make this mean average higher. See, it's bigger. 1573 is bigger than 1536. Same thing here. And so there's this influence of these higher prices that were paid for some of the sheep. And so right here, look at that. There's one for $22 a pound. So this one, these numbers here are lying well above what is the typical price paid for these sheep. And we're showing, because the middle value is $11, but so it's showing that half of the people received more than $11 and half less than $11. And so, or $11 or less. And so, but it's these high values here that are causing the mean average to be larger. And the same thing here with the net amount received, a little bigger, as is the commission amount paid. And then let's finish up this video by taking a look at a maximum value and a minimum value. So this is a nice little handy function here to find the largest value within a data set. So you're going to do that by typing equals max, and there it is. You can double click it, select all your values within that range that you want to calculate. So there it is. The highest price paid was $22. And let's see what the lowest price paid was. Equal sign min, min, select our values. You know, be careful when you're making these selections. Don't start here. You don't want to select the calculations that we made. You always want to make sure you're back starting with your data set. Easy mistake to do. And minimum was $8 a pound. So there's quite a range there, 22 minus 8. So a range of $14 in the difference between the lowest price and the highest price paid. So go ahead and calculate the maximum and the minimum values for the sales price, commission amount, and the net amount received. And once you've done that, hopefully our numbers agree here. Here we could go ahead and increase some decimal places. And so let's take a look here and see what we did. We've got the maximum amount for a sale was $3,124. The minimum amount that somebody received for their lamb, still a good amount of money, $1,017. And then the commission amount, somebody paid as high as $187, and then another one as low as $61. And then the net amount received to the student, top amount paid $2,936.56, and then the lowest received was $955.98. And then when it comes to analyzing data, you could go to the next step and go, well, what does all of this mean? And so you might want to analyze and go, why is there a big difference here? This could be the grand champion. It could be somebody really wanted a particular lamb, the buyers. So it could be different explanations for that. But at least this gives you a way to analyze a big set of data and try to give some meaning to it so you can find out what kind of a story does all of this information tell us in a numerical fashion or a values fashion, the way we look at it. So that's going to conclude video 5, the market fair animals, and doing a little bit of analysis. In our next video, we'll take a look at how we could sort this data and make it a little easier to see and to work with. Once again, make sure you save though. We're at video 5, so I'm going to go ahead and click save. Next up, we'll have market fair animals, video 6.